Hi everyone, it's Cathy here from F5 Foster Care. I hope you're well. Today I'm here with a very special guest. You're used to seeing my ugly mug on these videos, but today I wanted to share the wisdom of one of my wonderful colleagues. So obviously you know me, I'm Cathy. I would like to introduce you to my colleague who also is a Cathy, but this is Cathy Suffolk. And Cathy, I will hand over to you if I may, so you can just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your job.
Hi everyone, my name's Cathy Suffolk. I'm a senior supervising social worker with F5 Foster Care. I've been working with F5 since May 2021 and thoroughly enjoying the experience. We've got some fantastic foster carers, some fantastic children who are on their journey with us. I'm really hoping today we'll give you lots of information, and if anyone's got any questions, feel free to pass them through to Cathy and I'll do my best to answer them.
Excellent. Thank you ever so much, Cathy. I can vouch for Cathy, hand on my heart. She's just a little gem. And Cathy is one of our lead initial visit assessment officers, which is actually why we've got her with her, because that's the topic of today's video. So initial visits is part of our inquiry process, and that's kind of what we want to look at today, really. So usually when anybody calls through to the office or they come through to us on social media, it's myself that you'll talk to in first instance, normally anyway. Now I go through some information, and we share information about yourselves, about the foster agency, about fostering in general. And then potentially what I'll be doing with you is completing a pre-screen, which is just a really basic set of questions that's designed to highlight any real potential deal breakers, really. But once I've done that pre-screen, what happens then is I pass that over to our team of social workers. And then what happens after that is the initial visit. So, I mean, Cathy, can you start by telling us maybe about how that happens? So once I've completed a pre-screen with somebody and I pass that document over to the social team, how does it then go from that into an initial visit?
Okay, so basically it goes to the registered manager, Deb Bowman.
Yeah.
Deb has a good read of the information that you've given her.
Yeah.
And then if she thinks we can proceed, she'll then pass it across to the social work team. There might be a couple of extra questions for her to make a final decision that she might want asking, in which case we can usually do that quite simply. But usually by the time they get to me, we're looking at making arrangements for an initial home visit. I would then contact our inquirer, which is what you would be called at that time, and I'd make a suitable date and time to meet with you. That can be to suit yourself or me, really, and whatever fits in for us. I would then follow that up with an email to confirm that we've made that arrangement. And what I usually do, because it can sometimes be a week or two before we can get our diaries together properly, I usually follow that up with a text the night before just to say, I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, and I'll be there at, say, 10 o'clock in the morning if that's what we've agreed.
Brilliant, thank you. And can I ask, I mean, I have actually got some questions here that have already been submitted for me to ask, actually. But one of my own, does the whole family need to be there for that initial visit?
If you're fostering as a single foster carer, I can just speak to you. So if you're inquiring about just you fostering, yes, I can just see you. If you're a husband and wife or a husband and partner living together, then I have to see both of you. The reason for that is we have to be sure that both of you are as committed. Because you can't have one person that strongly wants to look after a vulnerable child in their home and another person that's thinking, oh, I don't really want to do this. So you've got to be absolutely sure that you're both as committed as one another.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, thank you. So we have got an initial visit booked. We know that the lovely Cathy is coming to see us. Can you give us a bit of an idea then as to what to expect when you come to our house? You know, what's going to happen, what you're going to be looking for, just a little bit of a guidance, really.
Yeah. So I have a form that I go through, which is a pretty standardised form, and I think most agencies that I've worked at previously, they all use a similar format. So whatever agency you went with, the format would be very similar and the process would be very similar. First of all, I like to sort of have a chat about you and your family. So if you've got children, if you and your husband or you and your partner are sitting with me and you've got children, whether these are adult children or younger children, I would suppose I'd start off by asking, have you spoken to them about this? Because when you foster as a family, and it impacts on everybody. So whether you've got adult children and grandchildren, or whether you've got young children living at home with you, fostering is going to impact on their life in some way. I usually try and find out about family and friends, so what your support is like, what you can expect to get emotionally, support-wise from family and friends, and also practical support, which is really, really important to our foster carers. That's because we want fostering to be as natural as possible for the child that you're caring for. We want you to treat them like your own children, and as you would with your own children, if you're going out for an evening, you might ask Nanny and Grandad to babysit. When you foster, it's slightly different because you have to have things called DBS checks in place. And we might do an assessment of those people, a very small assessment, but we have to be absolutely sure that everyone around foster children is safe to be there. So it looks slightly different when we're arranging it, but the outcome is the same as having your own children. So Nanny and Grandad might babysit for an hour, or Auntie might babysit for an hour, or a good friend might babysit and come over for the evening while you pop out for the night. We would then talk about health. So to be a foster carer, we'd hope that you've got generally good health. We'd want you to be emotionally resilient. So we'd be considering whether you've had any struggles with your mental health in the past. You might have some post-traumatic stuff that you're dealing with, and that's not going to rule you out, but we have to be absolutely sure that you can cope well with what is coming into your home. And sometimes children who have been abused in some way, or they've suffered some trauma, or just the fact that they've been separated from their family, it can bring some unwanted behaviours at the start of their journey or the start of their care with you. And we want to be sure that you're resilient enough and you're able to cope with that. So we talk about your general health, your physical health, and also your emotional health. We would also, I would also be telling you at this point that all foster carers, all applicants to foster, have to have what's called a fostering medical. So we don't just take your word for the fact, yes, I'm feeling great, I'm a healthy person. Your GP would verify that, and that's something that the agency would support you with. We also need to discuss like your history. So looking at whether you've had any convictions or cautions. By this stage, you'll have been asked whether you've got any offences against children, and whether there's any criminal convictions against your name. Hopefully you'll have been honest with us. Sometimes it can be really difficult to share those things with people, and we really do appreciate that. But it's vitally important that you tell us things at the start of the process, because again, it doesn't always rule you out. There can be assessments done to manage the information that we've been given, but we'd hope that you'd be completely open and honest with us. We talk about your employment. So I'd be talking about what you're doing. Have you got time to foster? So if you've got 3 jobs and you're never at home, you wouldn't have time to foster. But if you might work from home, you might do some admin from home, you might be a self-employed person who's very flexible, you might be a care worker, and you might have a partner with you who can also support you. And again, that's absolutely fine. We just need to know that you've got time to foster and you've got time to invest in the young person that we're going to entrust to you. We talk about previous employment and also checks and references. When you apply to foster, there are lots of checks and references done. Again, the agency is accountable to make sure that you're a safe person to care for children. I'd want to know you understand a little bit about what fostering is and what you're getting yourself into. So we'd be asking, have you got any experience of anybody who's been foster carers? Do you have an auntie who fosters or a friend who fosters? Sometimes, no, you don't. And you really don't know what fostering is, but you want to make a difference to children. And again, that's enough to want to make a difference. And that's the place that we want you to come from, that you care.
That is something that we have a lot as well. So we get a lot of people who come to us, don't we, who maybe haven't been involved in foster care or don't yet know any foster carers, but then they're in that research. So that is something that we do see quite a lot as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, if you haven't experience of foster care, it doesn't rule you out at all. But we just want to know that you've got a good understanding of the impact fostering may have on your life. Because it's not just as simple as we're going to give bed and board to a little person. I think most importantly, you'll have lots of meetings to attend for a child. You'll have to give them lots of loving care, and you'll have to invest in them, just as you would your own children. We'd want to know what your motivation to foster is. So again, it might just be that you've got time, but we need to be sure that you want to foster for the right reasons. I'd talk to you a little bit about your skills, your interests, things that may be transferable to fostering. You might have previous experience in childcare. You might be a scout leader or a brownie guide leader. You might be a youth worker. You might have experience in looking after a friend's child, as simple as that. But your experience will count, and any experience you've got, we'll discuss with you. We'd look at your home. We have to look quite carefully at your home because there are some regulations around home living. So if it's not your own home, if you rent the property, you would have to speak to your landlord and get permission, as whether that was a private landlord or whether that was council tenants. If it's your own home, obviously, there's no problem. The home has to be safe. And there are lots of like little bits that you have to do. Things like we might ask you to get the fire force in to check your smoke alarms are working. But you know, pretty simple stuff and pretty straightforward stuff, but it's just making sure that your home is a safe place to be.
Can I just interject there, please, Cathy? As I say, I've got a couple of questions. Most of these I was going to leave to the end, but it just seems like the right time to put this one in. And one of these questions, it was from Sam, actually from Warsaw, and she's asking, does a room need to be ready for a child by the time you're coming for that initial visit?
No, absolutely not. As long as we can see you've got a suitable bedroom. If we ask you and invite you in to apply to foster after your initial visit, then during your assessment process, we will be talking about how many children you might care for, the needs of the children, and we want to be making sure that that bedroom suits that purpose. So you might have two children in one bedroom, you might have bunk beds, you might have a great big spare bedroom, but only one spare bedroom. So it would be silly you preparing all of your bedroom prior to any assessment taking place, because we might want to tweak that a little bit.
Makes sense. Perfect. Yep. Okay. So that gives us, I mean, is there anything additional that you wanted to add in, or do you think that generally covers?
It covers most of it. We also talk about finances, because financially you have to be stable.
Yes.
You can't be reliant on the fostering income to support you financially. The reason for that is if you're without a placement, a child in your care for a period of time, we need to know that you're financially secure. That can be a bit of a wobbly one for people. So people sometimes do bank work in between fostering, because when we match children against you, we want to be absolutely sure that that child's going to fit well into your home. That doesn't mean every child is going to fit well into your home. We're also reliant on the local authorities. So we'll send the local authority your profile, your information when you become a foster carer, but there could be 10 other people who want to be considered for that child and we may not be chosen. So there are lots of reasons why you have to be financially stable, and that would be part of your fostering assessment.
Brilliant, brilliant. So thank you for that, Cathy. That gives us a really good overview as well. And I think it's probably really important for us to sort of add on that obviously the initial visit, that's a really important meeting for us to get to know more about you guys as inquirers and to make sure that you're, you know, potentially suitable and your home is suitable, your family is suitable to meet the criteria. But do you know what? This is a two-way thing, and it is just as important for you to get to know us as a fostering agency. So getting to know us as we do that initial inquiry process and seeing Cathy when she comes to your house, you know, it gives you the opportunity to find out about us as a fostering service as well, which hopefully will help put your mind at rest as well. So just a little add on there, I think, really. So once we've got that initial visit done, Cathy, and you've left the inquirer's house and you've come back to the office, what happens next? What happens after that?
Well, I think at the end of the initial visit, if I had any significant concerns and I thought that the application or the inquiry to foster may not go any further, then I would be very clear about that.
Yes.
However, if it was a very good inquiry and the initial home visit went really well, I would then go back to the office and type up the information as quickly as I possibly could. To get that off to the registered manager. She'd read through what I'd written and she would make the final decision about whether we could invite you to apply to foster with F5 Foster Care. That would usually be within 2 weeks. We like to do it as quickly as possible. I like to try and do it within a week, but to be realistic, in case there's competing demands, there's holidays, I might have a really busy schedule and not be able to type all the information up that quickly. We say 2 weeks, but usually we try to get back to you as quickly as possible by around about a week.
Perfect. That's absolutely brilliant. Cathy, thank you so much. You've been really, really helpful, and that's some really insightful information that you've given. Like I said, I did have a couple of questions. Are you okay if we just throw around a couple of random questions
Yes, of
at
course.
you?
Any
Yeah.
questions?
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. So Donna from Telford, she has messaged in and she's asked if there is a, you know, can these meetings happen, these initial visits on weekends and evenings, because her and her partner at the minute at least work full-time both throughout the week, so they're asking what that flexibility is for that.
Yeah, I mean, the initial visit, we can try and be as flexible as possible with you. Obviously, my office hours are 9 till 5, but if you couldn't see me in that time, I would do my very best to come out evenings or weekends to see you. If you got invited into an assessment, so if you invited to apply to foster, that was accepted and you were in an assessment, we would expect you to show flexibility because that would be part of your assessment process. We could do meetings over Teams, we can do meetings at your home, but you would be expected to be flexible with the agency, and there may be some training that you might have to attend as well.
Okay, brilliant. I've got another message here from Darren in Tamworth. Now, this isn't specific really to initial visits, but I think it's something that a lot of people want to know anyway, and that is how long does an assessment take? So if they've had the initial visit, it's all been written off, they've been, you know, invited to apply, they apply. How long does that assessment process take?
Okay, so when you have a fostering assessment, it's a highly regulated process. We have to make sure that the regulations are followed. It goes through stages. So usually you go into stage 1, and stage 1 is when you have your checks and references done. If you progress successfully through stage 1, you will move into stage 2. The whole process should take, to get you to panel and ready with your assessment, around about 6 months. That doesn't mean that your assessment itself will take a full 6 months.
Yeah.
Your assessor, whether that's me or another assessor, would meet with you 6 to 10 times, depending on how straightforward your assessment is. And once all of the information is together, it would then go off to be quality assured. So that would probably be at around about 5 months, and you'll be ready for panel in 6 months. All being well, sometimes it can take longer than that. We try to make sure it's not outside of 6 months, and it can be quicker, but it's not usually less than 4 months, I would say. But on average 6 months, but the clock's ticking from the moment your application goes in. So from application to panel, usually about 6 months.
Perfect, thank you very much. And then the last question I've got is from Shabana in Birmingham. So she's asked, how long after that initial visit would it be before she hears back as to whether she can apply? But I think we've answered that as we've gone through anyway.
Yeah, usually around about 1 to 2 weeks. We always say 2 weeks, and you'll hear by the end of 2 weeks. If we can get it done sooner, we always do.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Cathy. Again, that has been absolutely brilliant. I hope that that's been really helpful for anybody out there who is expecting a home visit or just wants to know a little bit more about what that inquiry process looks like. So, Cathy, thank you for your time today. It's very much appreciated. And guys, if you want to hear a little bit more about this, or you just want a bit more information, you can just reach out to the team, or you can reach out to myself directly. You've all got my details. I'm across all social media platforms. You can reach our office on our telephone number 0121 271 0555. Or of course you can have a look on our website, which is www.f5fostercare.co.uk. And at that, I think we'll leave it at that. So thanks again, Cathy, and reach out, guys, if you've got any questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.